You find the heat blistering as animated flames move towards you, dancing around with a tainted malice. Hello and welcome to Hunting Monsters. Today we're going to be talking about fire elementals. Fire elementals are some of the coolest elementals. Despite that, we'll probably see earth elementals summoned a lot more because they're so much easier summoned because there's earth everywhere. But fire elementals have a special sort of charm. First things first, let's kind of go over the different abilities that fire elementals have. First off is they have the burn ability. So if they deal damage to you, you catch fire and take damage over time. They inflict fire damage. They also have the improved initiative as a bonus feat. Now, why is this important? Because that means they're pretty quick. And if we're making magical items, we do want to keep that in mind. So some maybe dex bonuses if you're looking for something to give ability scores. Dex is a great start. They have a fire immunity. And lastly, they have damage reduction. Now, the damage reduction for fire elementals is basically because they don't have a solid form. Physical attacks just deal less because all you're doing is moving the prime elements around. Those are our abilities that we're going to be keeping in mind when we are designing drops. Let's get our 2x4 chart ready. Now remember, we use a 2x4 chart because it creates a nice bell curve of probabilities. So at the bottom we have nothing, because sometimes you just beat a monster so badly that there's nothing left. Number 8, we have roll twice. Because sometimes you're lucky, and this particular elemental is in good enough shape for you to know a whole bunch of things. Alright, so let's kind of go through and think of some different items. So in the middle, I'm going to actually put down ash. Ash is from burning things around it. Obviously, it's going to create soots and other gases and other particles from going around and burning things. So we'll put ash from a fire elemental, because it is going to have different magical properties than regular ash. Next, let's think about some other things. What about ever-burning embers? Now, ever-burning embers, this fire elemental continues to burn. It's always on fire through magic, because it's from the plane of fire. It's a denizen of the plane of fire. And so some of the things that are keeping it aflame are going to have magical properties. So ever-burning embers is a great start. Next, we're going to add extra planar cord. Now, this is kind of a little bit confusing. It's going to be like a strictly magical item, like maybe only wizards know what an extra planar cord is. But because fire elementals are from the plane of fire, there has to be something that's keeping them to this plane, keeping them together, because creatures, depending on what lore you're using, can't exist out of their plane. Like even creatures from the material plane, they can't go to other planes without some sort of help. And we're going to put red, because red's usually the color of fire. So that's going to give them some sort of abilities. Now let's see, what else do we have? Up here, we're going to put plain touched item. Now, what is a plane touched item? So something that has the elemental energies of the plane of fire imbued with it. So maybe if it's going around, maybe it puts the energy into like a glass vial. So this is going to be more up to the DM to decide what it is, because the fire elemental doesn't really have much of a body. It's intangible. That's why it gets damage reduction. And lastly, I think the most boring thing that we might have, well, besides from the ash, is just the last thing that you might be able to find would be brass. In traditional D&D, the city of Brass was a big part of the fire plane. So maybe there's just a little bit of brass from the Brass City. Alright, so let's take a look and let's kind of think of the different types of abilities that these might have. I'm going to use a different colored pen so that we can kind of just differentiate just a little bit. So brass, I feel like that's going to give fire immunity. But what is the brass going to be worth? The brass could be worth, we have to factor in size. So they can get a die 4 pounds times size category. Forget, we went over this in the spider video, but the way it works is large times 4, huge times 8, gargantuan times 16, colossal is times 32, small is times 1/2 or 1/4, tiny times 1/8, diminutive is times 1/16, and fine is times 1/32. Alright, extra plant cord. So I feel this is going to be if you want any damage reduction, fire immunity. Now this is going to be more of a straight, like, real rare item. It's going to be really wanted by magic casters. It's going to be a really good spell component. So it's going to be worth quite a lot. Let's say 200 GP times size category. I'm just going to put SC for size category. Ash. This is also going to be measured in pounds. Probably a die 4 times size. And it's going to be worth a little bit less than like anything else. So the brass, it's a metal. So it's probably going to be worth 10 GP per pound. The ash can be worth 5 GP per pound. Burning embers, also pretty valuable. We're going to be looking at maybe 100 GP times size. The issue here is we can see fire elementals at level 1. So maybe we want to put this a little bit lower. Change that to 50. Because we don't want to give too much gold, because gold can equal power. Ever burning embers also going to be 50 times size category. Now these probably going to give burn or fire damage. So if we want to do something like that, we're going to have to get the ever burning embers. And plain touch item, so that's going to be cost of original item times 4. This is quadruple the value. But now that we kind of have a chart down, let's think about what item that these drops can make. The item that I'm going to make is going to be part of a set. So we're going to use kind of the cursed item. I'm going to go through and tell you what its abilities are on its own, and then I'm going to show you how to calculate that kind of price. I want to call this the Arc Reactor Belt. This is a reference. I hope people can figure out what the reference is before I tell all the different things. So what the Arc Reactor Belt does, it gives resist fire 10, and then it's also going to give Scorching Ray 3 times a day. Very simple. But when you have the complete sets, it's going to become resist fire 30 and Scorching Ray DL 11 3 times per day. Now caster level 11 is when you get 3 rays at 4d6 each. And this is also a caster level 11. But if the item has the complete set, which includes the Iron Mask, the Repulsor Gauntlets, the Nano Cloak, that's what gives it these abilities. And then obviously this is Earth, and this is Wind or Air, and this is Water. It's a little bit of a stretch, but I feel like if you hunt down enough of each elemental, you could get an item that works together. You can kind of become like the Avatar in this cool suit of magical items. Calculate this out. So normally, it's going to be 2 second level spells, times caster level 11 times caster level 11, 180, or actually 2000 because it's continuous, and then this is going to be 1800 times 3 over 5. Now there is a special modifier because depending on how many minutes this is, and so this will be times 1.5. So we're going to break out the calculator and calculate all of that out. They are like abilities. This one's going to be less, so we're going to multiply it by times 0.75. They're like abilities because they're both fire related. So 66,000 plus, and then we add that to 66000, 83,820. Now that's a lot. That's not going to be very accessible for most players. But if we notice, it has only this ability. So we can actually divide this cost by half or even a third, because you need 4 things to get it. So let's calculate that out. So since you need 4 other things to get it, let's multiply that by 0.25. We now come to a cost of 20,955 GP for this item. Let's see how that compares to a normal version. So again, we're going to use the same formula: 2 times 3 times 2,000 times 1.5, and then 2 times 3 times 1,800 times 3/5. All right, we're going to do some quick math on that. I'll be right back. All right, so if we calculate out what this would be with just on its own, we actually come across this number, which is actually higher than this one, which means there's something wrong with our formula. So we might actually take this and multiply by 1/3. So I'll be right back to see. And I think multiplying by 1/3 actually brings us up to a good value. Going to be worth 27,661 GP. So you're paying about 5,000 extra gold for that potential bonus of possibly getting the other 3 items to really boost up your stats. So that's the video. I hope you like the arc reactor and what you can loot from a fire elemental's corpse. If you liked the video, please leave a like, a comment, and share it with your friends. And please leave any questions, comments, or requests in the comments below. And I'll see you guys next time. Thanks. Bye-bye.